It was at 2 o'clock on Friday afternoon that the first quake in the current series of aftershocks struck. Just a few hours earlier, I'd interviewed Deon Swiggs from Rebuild Christchurch about the long-term plans for the city. He says those plans won't change because of the latest quakes. I started our interview by asking Deon about the key projects for 2012.
I think the key projects are going to be mainly its infrastructure. The infrastructure of the city was really damaged after the earthquakes, so before you really can start building the things on the top, you've got to fix what's underneath, and that's a really big job. So you've got Skirt, who are in charge of that, which is a collaboration between the council, Sarah, and Fulton Hogan and a whole lot of other organisations to actually fix that stuff that's under the ground. I think that's a $2 billion project. Once that starts really happening, you can actually start looking at what's on top of the ground and actually fixing up, repairing a lot of the houses that people live in. So EQC is going to start prioritising which houses and who gets the first sort of repairs under their managed scheme, and then you'll start seeing the central city reopening. So hopefully the cordon will be away about April at this stage, is the central city cordon. So you'll have the whole you'll be able to go into the CBD after April. That sort of think after the Grand Chancellor comes down.
Are there enough construction workers in Christchurch to deal with all the work?
Not at the moment, there isn't. But I think there are a lot of plans for workers to be housed in Christchurch. So, you know, CDC, EQC, there's a whole lot of organisations working alongside at the moment to actually make that happen. And so as the rebuild starts to gear up, there's going to be a heck of a lot of jobs that are going to be needed. So there's going to be a lot of people coming into Christchurch to do these repairs so that it actually can be done in a timely manner, because we don't really want this to drag on for 20 years. We'd ideally like to get most of it done over the next 5 years so that we can actually sort of get on with our lives.
Is that possible? Is 5 years realistic, or are we really talking about a decade or decades even?
It's anybody's sort of, you know, we're still a little bit early to sort of say how long it's actually going to be. EQC have really only just finished their assessments and going through that sort of phase and figuring out, I mean, them setting that deadline of 2013 to finish off the repairs under the managed program, which is the Fletcher's EQR program, that's a good milestone. But I think the CBD is going to be a long time before that's all rebuilt. And when we're talking about rebuilt, it's not going to be just what it was. It's going to be different. So there might be a lot more empty spaces in the CBD. It might be a little bit more open than it was. One of the plans in the Central City Plan is to have a corridor of I think it's about 30 metres either side of Avon River, which will be completely different to what we've had at the moment. So you won't have buildings right next to the river. You'll have like parks and cafes and stuff like that. That's part of the Central City Plan that hopefully will be that's been adopted by the council, but hopefully will be approved by the minister.
In terms of population, Deon, how much has the population reduced since the earthquakes?
The latest figures that I've seen are about 6%, I think. So I mean, there's been quite a lot of people leaving. But I think it's because of the opportunities in the job market in Christchurch at the moment. There's a lot of people who are left because they've been made redundant from their job, or companies have been pulled out of Christchurch because there just hasn't been that work in that industry. But as the rebuild does gear up, I mean, we're talking about 28,000 people to 30,000 people just to sort of do the rebuild. But that's just construction workers. On top of that, you're going to need accountants, lawyers. So there's going to be the people will have to come back. And as we sort of get the houses rebuilt and on the red zone land and new subdivisions done, the city will recover from this sort of short-term drop in sort of population.